I'm Klein, for those who know. If you do that again, you're going to have to come and do stand-up comedy. He actually was a stand-up comic at one point. I'm Robert Klein, Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at KU Med Center. And some of you know, since this has this World Series thing, that I've been a lifelong New York Yankee fan. So this has been a tough year, but I've enjoyed the community activity as an observer. So I think the question we often face in our jobs is how should individuals, organizations best prepare for the very complex and uncertain world of healthcare, biomedical research that now confronts all of us. We do carry an obligation to provide direction to our teams and to be leaders in our respective positions. So after a lag period of 3 years, we haven't had campus-wide leadership series for a 3-year period. Our hope is to draw on the experience of people who've led in very diverse fields, various diverse sectors, and to identify personal and organizational capacities that leaders will need and the steps that organizations can best take to build those capacities throughout the enterprise. We have an outstanding group of speakers this year that will tell their stories in the hope that we can all learn from their experiences and the trials and tribulations that they've gone through. I first of all need to thank the new UKP, the KU Hospital, the School of Nursing, the School of Medicine, the School of Health Professions. My office, both Academic Affairs and Graduate Studies, have contributed to the lunches that you have. And you didn't come to hear me, so I am going to introduce Marty McLaughlin, who is the Executive Director of the Office of Academic Affairs, and she put this program together, and I guess she's going to announce one small change, too. So, all right, here's Marty.
Well, I don't know about you. If you haven't been to one of these series before, if you're new on campus in the last 3 years, I just know I'm thrilled to bring it back and to go out and find and recruit speakers. What I look for in speakers are interesting stories or backgrounds, people that have really overcome some obstacles, human interest, anything fun. Of course, I can't get away without doing sports because, well, my boss likes sports and insists on it, and people that we can really learn from. You have the bio of our speaker in front of you, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on her background because it's kind of lengthy. It's really good. It's an interesting background, so if you haven't read it, be sure you do so. But I have been asked the question, I think, 3 times since it was published, since her name was put out there, how did you come up with her to talk about the World Series? Why didn't you get somebody from the Royals? Well, when I read what she wrote that I saw on the web about the lessons in life and business that you can learn from the series, and I read what she put together, I thought, I like this woman, we need her, because she can think outside the box. If she, in a field that is not professional baseball, like the rest of us, can come up with the connections to what they did to win the series, then we needed to hear from her, not the Royals, although they may come in the future. I'm going to turn it over to her, and I do need to tell you one thing that we found out about 35 minutes ago, and that is that Bill's self-date will be changed. He called and said, I can't make it, you're going to hate me. I said, no, I'm not. We can be flexible, can you? And he said, yes. So we're going to be looking for a date in May or June. Just know that that date is now canceled, and I'll let you know as soon as I find out. If you have already registered for that session, when the date changes, you will get a notice from that. Okay? All right. Gina, will you join me in welcoming Gina? Thank you.
I can talk really loud. Oh, it was this. That. There we go. All right. Well, thank you all for having me, and I cannot tell you how honored and humbled I am. One, that Marty asked me, and two, that you guys all signed up. It was obviously the free lunch, and I'm glad it got off the elevator. Okay, where are we at now? There we are. And we're going to run. Don't worry, I don't read from slides, but I might skip and I might lose space. Is that okay, or lose my place? This is just going to be a conversation, so everybody can relax. If you got some paper and take some notes, that's good. I had forgotten, Marty, about this presentation that you printed for everybody. That is actually from about 3 years ago, I think. And it was the 25 lessons I learned as a CEO over 25 years. So we're going to make some relations back to that. But of course, didn't you love that picture? How many real sports, and it's okay if you're not, how many real sports fans do we have? Okay. How many non-sports fans do we have? Everybody else close their eyes. Okay. That is perfectly okay. The challenge for me in life and when I talk to groups is that I recognize that not everybody is a sports fan. I tend to work with a lot of women in the community, and a lot of them, believe it or not, are not real sports fans. And in business, we have all these sports analogies. So I'm going to apologize a little bit because I'm going to talk all about sports stuff today. But that's okay, because I think there's a lot of relationships there that we can see clearly as we go through our day. So this is who I am. I was born and raised in Kansas City. I was the middle child out of 4. My dad was a serial entrepreneur. He couldn't stay focused very long. And that's okay, which surprises me beyond belief when I think about him. My dad was a 20-year Marine, a gunnery sergeant. So if you guys know anything about the Marine Corps, they're very disciplined. And gunnies are basically sharpshooters who then train other people. So my dad was the ultimate leader. My mom, back in the day, and they both have passed, they passed at about 80 years old, was a surgical scrub nurse. So in my household, people died if your bed wasn't made right. And I don't mean that they were ultimately strict, but their philosophy was there's one way to do something and you do it right all the time, or people could die. Because that was the reality of their world. You know, he trained men to go to Vietnam. So that was the reality of it. My mom put people back together, or helped put people back together in that day. So I was raised with this very do it right the first time, all the time, and every time after that. But a very nurturing way. And that always surprises people, because my dad, I wish I would have put a picture of him, was the 6'2" pure Marine. So you know the look. His haircut was dictated by the Marine Corps, and if it was good enough for them, it was good enough for everybody else. And people thought he was a scary dude. But what that showed me is that people looked to him for leadership. Of the 4 of us kids, I learned more than anybody else, this paradigm of leadership presence. When you walk into a room, you have a presence about leadership, and people come to you. So that's just one of the lessons of leadership that I learned. So think about it from the standpoint of if you want to be a leader, when you walk in the room, people should gravitate towards you. And that has to do with your presence, how you speak, what you say, and how you present yourself all the time. And that was one of the key lessons my dad taught me about leadership. So that was modeled for me every single day. So as you think about your team and the people you work with, what are you modeling for them? Because a great leader builds his or her replacement. Something very important to keep in mind. I'm a competitive racquetball player, so I love sports of all kinds. But even at 51 years old, I still get on the court and play tournaments for some unbeknownst reasons, next Friday, I'm driving up to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, not the right direction to play racquetball. But I run a company called NextPage. We have about 110 team members, and my job is to set vision and lead the team of about 110 folks. NextPage is a printing company and direct marketing company, and we have clients all over the country and a lot of the big brands here in town, and you probably got something in your mailbox that came out of my plant at some point in time. But what we have is, it's one of the key is we have to set vision. So no matter what you're working on, make sure you understand what the end goal is. One of the things I always will ask people in a meeting, somebody will say, we've got a problem with X, Y, and Z. I said, okay, well, we're at A. We know there's a problem somewhere in between. When it's all said and done, what's the vision? What do we want to have happen? So I always tell people, my job is A and Z. We have to analyze and come up with B through Y. And that's what good leaders do, is they help their team fill in the B through Y. Okay. I love business, and I love leadership conversations. I'm going to throw some stats at you because I think they're very important, and I think it's important and will hopefully encourage you all to stay connected to the leadership series. Because while you're in the healthcare business, it is still a business. It's a big business, but a lot of small businesses feed it. And some of you may be in entrepreneurial families of some kind. So 96% of all businesses generate less than $1 million in revenue. That's about 10 employees. 0.4% of all businesses generate more than $10 million in revenue. And that's about 75 employees. So if you think about that, only 0.4% of all businesses are significantly larger companies. And the research shows, from Vern Harnish, led a bunch of research along the way and did a bunch of other stuff in that realm, but the single reason that more businesses do not consistently exceed $10 million in revenue is because the owner, the entrepreneur, the founders, the people at the top are not good leaders. So that's how important leadership is for our community. Kansas City puts a whole lot of time and energy into startups, small businesses. My personal belief is we need to spend more time developing leaders to help those businesses grow. My belief, still working on it, talking to a lot of people. If anybody knows anybody, let me know. Okay. So, okay, there we go. So, questions. I want to ask you guys. This is why I get to ask you questions. What does it mean to be on a team? To be on a team? Just throw out some answers. Participation, collaboration, shared goals. What else? Come on. Respect. I'm sorry, respect? Respect. Do you have a coach? They're the leader? I'm sorry? Define goals. You want roles. Okay. I was thinking donuts for a minute. So defined roles. You have a first baseman, you have a second baseman, you have a shortstop, you have a third baseman. Do we ever see the first baseman run clear over to the third baseman? No? Do you ever see the cardiac surgeon doing hip surgery? Probably not. Good point. We hope not. So, there's some other things. It's about working together, supporting one another, no fears of retribution, and trust. All right? Have you ever been on a team where those are missing? Kind of happens. What's the cost of that? It can be significant. I was part of a team in 2004 that was very toxic. I had some people in my organization, and I was struggling with my business partner, my brother, significantly. I reached for my phone. I heard a pop and a scream. It was me screaming and 3 herniated discs from being part of a toxic team. In my neck, it was pretty icky. The key is, if you are part of a toxic team, is you can't always go to the coach or leader, right? It's kind of hard to go tell your boss he's a jerk. There's times when I've been a jerk, but we all grow and we learn. But the key is, if you find yourself in a toxic team, you have to find a way to dump that out of your system. I didn't. But that goes back to working together, supporting one another, no fears of retribution, and trust. So working together. Honestly, what I did is I just went and found a bunch of cool Royals pictures. So, working together. This is a great one. We can go back to, I would love to pretend that I could talk intelligently about medical stuff and the surgery room and all the people you know, but I'm not going to even pretend to do that because, frankly, I can't. I could talk to you about printing companies. That's kind of boring, except that we get to make stuff. We actually make something that makes people money. And I have people that do very specific jobs, have very specific roles, that go towards making our clients money. And what we do is we focus on what's the end, what's the vision, is to drive revenue for our clients. In your world, what are some of your goals? Anybody have any? Patient safety is a good goal. Health, general health. Get them back from their 3 discs in their neck that went kaplooey. Care. Satisfaction. That's a good thing because the patients are your customers. So good leadership is about customer care across the board. And that's something that we all have to remember. So as a team member who's maybe part of a team that's less than enriching, how's that? What you might want to do is start having the conversation where it's feasible for you. How does this benefit our patients? How does this benefit our students? How does this benefit our community? What's the shared vision? And that's probably the biggest challenge for a lot of teams, a lot of businesses, is they can't articulate the shared vision. The Royals this year had one shared vision: to get to the World Series and to win it. And Ned Yost, I remember an interview he did shortly, I think it was after game 2 or 3, I can't really remember. Somebody said, well, are the guys really surprised that they're here? You know, do they feel like they got a boost from that last win or whatever it was? And he said, and this is what I remember, he said, these guys knew and had one vision on day 1 of spring training, and that was to be back at the dance, be back at the ballpark for the World Series. That was their one shared vision. So everything that happened all along the way was about that. Do the teams you work on have a shared vision? If you're the leader and you can't articulate the shared vision, guess what? Nobody else can. So revisit that as you look at your teams. Supporting one another. Anybody know what picture this is? Who the picture is? Volquez and Perez. How much support did he have after his mother or his father passed away? He didn't even know. The family didn't want him to know. But the team was all there for him. And they held him together so he could do his job and then learn of his tragedy. So supporting one another. So even if we're sitting around the room and we're brainstorming ideas and then we get the one wild idea, there's certain brainstorming techniques that say, great idea. Everything's a great idea. Well, I got news for you. Not everything's a great idea. But you don't want to tear down any idea that's put to you. You always say, that's kind of interesting. Can you give me a few more talking points around that? How else could you do that? Because the thing about it is, even if the idea is so stupid, and I've said some stupid stuff, the key then is to not tear down the person. The key is to help lift them up. I have awesome people that work for me. They will walk off the end of the earth to take care of our customers and to do what needs to be done. They'll oftentimes do too much, and that's okay, other than when there's a safety concern. I've had people that have worked 24 hours straight, and I didn't want it. I would have not allowed it, but they felt that if they did, it was going to help the next shift. And they'll do that, okay? But they also kind of don't have the best taste, and they get together to do our Christmas party, and sometimes I don't really care for it. But by God, they invested the time and energy. I'm going to go and I'm going to have a great time. It's not about me. It's about them. My job as a leader is to support them no matter what. I will oftentimes talk to business owners who I'm buying stuff from, and their company will maybe screw up a little bit. And I'll hear about their assistant didn't give them the message, the shipping clerk messed up, estimating didn't do this right, so-and-so screwed that up. They'll throw everybody under the bus. But when it comes down to it as the leader, it doesn't matter what happens in my company. It all is my fault. I am so sorry we screwed up your print job. It is 100% my responsibility, and I'm going to fix it. If a leader says anything other than that, people question their true sense of leadership. Are they truly the leader? It's all my fault. And it's always funny because my team will go, Gina, that wasn't your fault. Bob didn't do blah, 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 blah. And it's because I know my role as a leader is to take all the responsibility. It may not be my fault, but it's my responsibility, by God. So I will do that. I will then go and help the other individuals and their supervisors make sure that we do better next time. But supporting it goes multiple ways. Life happens outside of business. People are born, and people die. And people get injured, and people get sick. And people are hungry, and they're sad, and they need all kinds of emotional support. We like to think we're super logical, living in a, what's the quote? All of a sudden it just ran out of my brain. Oh, I knew I'd screw up. I'm sorry. Hopefully this isn't on video. We like to think we're logical people living in an emotional world. We're actually emotional people living in a logical world, or something to that effect. Okay? We all have those pesky emotions. And my brother, who is my business partner, which is a whole other story, is the most emotional person on the planet. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, and you know what they are? How good we did last month and how much we've sold this month. I can tell his emotional state at any point in time without even seeing him because of the numbers that I get every day. And I can't get him to see it. Got a little story for you about this supporting one another. So a few years ago, shortly after I had my little issue, I came in, my head was down, I was focused, I walked to my office, was doing my stuff, I walked around. I was in a surly mood that day, but I didn't talk to anybody. And somebody came to my office the next day and said, Amanda thinks you're mad at her. What? Amanda? You mean Amanda from accounting that I haven't talked to in 3 days? I don't need to talk to her? by God, if I'm mad at her, I'll tell her. She doesn't need to worry about it. That's literally what I said to the supervisor. They trot out of my office. I go home. I sleep. My neck's still bothering me. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, Gina, you need to get your head screwed on straight. How much productivity did you lose because Amanda thought you were afraid of her? It is not your job to put up any roadblock for your team members. It is your job to support them unconditionally. So the next morning, I got up, put on my big girl panties, got my head mentally into this little plan I had, walked into the office. I was happy as a clam. I said hello to every person. How are you doing? How are the kids? What's going on? That was really hard for me to do because I'm an introvert. Believe that one because it's true. I am an introvert. I don't really like talking to people very often. The next day, my mental hat on, go in. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? How are the kids? How's the grandparents? Hey, I was really sorry to hear about your dad. Went back to my office, did my stuff. Every time somebody came to my office, hey, what's going on? What can I help you with? I swear everybody thought I had a new boyfriend. They didn't know who I was, what I was doing, or why I was doing it. I'm going to tell you a little secret. I had to fake it for 2 weeks before it became genuine. But it was about supporting my team, because if I didn't support them and give them what they needed, what I later learned is Amanda was a true extrovert. And if she didn't get that validation from me, even just a, hey, how you doing? She thought I was mad at her. And it cost me money. Because Amanda was worried about how I felt about her. That was not what I needed to do. I needed to support her unconditionally. And I needed to fill her bucket up, not my own. Isn't that a great? Anybody know what shot this is? Stealing home. No fears of retribution. I don't know if he was really thinking about that. I'm not really sure if Yost what he would have said had he missed. But what happened here is their base running studied how the different positions on their competitors threw in different scenarios. And they knew that the Mets first baseman had missed many throws to home plate in this situation. And yeah, it was a big risky move, but it was a big deal. Is your team afraid of retribution? Now, I get that a lot of times, you guys are medical, you're life and death. There's retribution. There's consequences. There's consequences in my world. I have men and women working on equipment. Hands go in and hands sometimes don't come out. But the key is to make sure that everybody can come and tell you when they've made a mistake. I have a situation right now where one of my team members made a $58,000 decision. That's really not that big a deal at our company. We buy $1 million presses. It happens. Wasn't real happy about it. It was the wrong decision. But I've given it up. There's no retribution. He's walking around on eggshells, and I'm like, it's okay. We just need to go down another path. And I've got to figure out how to get him to realize it really is okay. I expected to lose some money. I'm glad we're realizing now that we made a $50,000 decision before it becomes an $800,000 mistake, because what he bought is he bought a piece of software that doesn't do everything we need to know, didn't get it figured out until 91 days that it's not going to work. And now if we would have stayed it and we would have kept down that path, it literally would have been an $800,000, it could have been a $1 million mistake, multi-million-dollar mistake. Like, it's really okay. I'm glad you figured it out now instead of when it's $1 million issue. So the key is, let's make sure that people can come to us when they've made mistakes, and ideally before they've made mistakes. If we're supporting one another, if we're open in our communication, we can get them to come back to us. And trust. There was a lot of conversation about Cueto and whether or not he was going to stay, and he was just a one-time and he was here to do it. And in the media, it seemed that the Royals players didn't like him or didn't trust him. But as I've talked to people on the team, he was there to do a job and he did the best job he could. They trusted him and they kept going forward. And that's a huge, huge deal. Do you trust your players that they're there for the same shared vision? Are you trusted? Do people trust you? If not, if you can't say, yes, they trust me, with true confidence, you need to look at your behavior and what you're doing. And you may need to make some changes. We've all seen this, right? It's a lie. I might be the only leadership speaker who put that up there. But it's a complete and utter lie. You have my little bio there. Look at the last point. I think it's point 25. The animals must be fed. Okay? We are all in this every day for our own needs. Fair statement? I'll be honest with you, because I hate that phrase. I'm sorry. Tell you a little secret. My goal is to make as much money as I can as fast as I can. And you know what I want to do with it? I want to give it to charity. So it sounds real greedy, but that's my goal. I know that I have the skills to lead a company and drive revenue for other companies, and I'm going to use those skills to help do good in the community. That's what I want to do. That's I. Each individual on your team has reasons that they get up every day, and those are perfectly valid reasons, and none of us have any reason to judge or question them. It's why they want and what they want to do. Our jobs as team members and team leaders is to help everyone figure out how they get their own needs met, aka the animals must be fed. And I don't just mean they need to get food. Sometimes they need emotional support. Sometimes they need work support. Sometimes they need a little forgiveness. But everybody needs to be fed. Their spirit needs to be fed. Their buckets need to be filled. Whatever nomenclature you want to use. But the key here is we're all a collection of individuals who choose to work on a common goal. So the next time somebody says, by God, there's no I in team, you can silently laugh at them. As you say, that's a good statement. You can say, no, I don't buy it, but that's all right. So what that means to me, and that statement is really about, I have to make sure that I solidly have my vision out in the distance, clearly set in my mind. I have to, as best I can, understand the goals of everyone else on my team so that I can help them reach their goals because they help me reach my goals. A lot of leaders who are, what was the word I used? Not the toxic word. Less than something. I'm sorry? We'll use that one. Less than nurturing, I believe, have not fully self-actualized themselves. They might have an issue with, I don't know, impulse control, or truly understanding the right and responsibility of being a leader. Go back to my little scenario with Amanda. By God, if I'm mad at her, I'll make sure she knows it. Well, Gina, that's not a right attitude. None of it is. There's no reason for me to be mad. In my world, nobody, knock on wood, dies in what they're doing. Nobody's died because a printing job was late. You guys have some other issues. But, but I think the reality is nobody wants that outcome, but it is about the outcome for other people. So this self-actualization. I always laugh when I talk to somebody and they say, well, I got to make sure she knows how I feel. And I'm like, well, I really try to live my life in somewhat of a compartmentalized section. I have roles I play all day long. I'm a sister, I'm a business owner, I'm a friend, I'm a community leader. For some reason, some people think I'm a public speaker. Those are all different roles. To be able to switch gears, remember I'm an introvert living in an extrovert universe. I have to get out of myself. But most importantly, I have to look in the mirror, know who I am, know that everything I do has to be a support the person that I want to be. And if I do something that's contrary to that, I have to be able to face myself. And that's the hardest thing to do. And if you can't look in the mirror and say, man, oh man, I screwed that up, and really have that hard conversation with yourself, you need to reevaluate yourself as a leader. Because you might just be one of those less than optimal leaders. It's a hard conversation to have when this is my fault. I have some team members who have trouble with that. You know, Kim, I really wish you would do, you should have done it this way, and this way. Well, yeah, but that's really not my fault. Okay, I'm trying to nurture and support you, Kim. It's okay, I'm not talking about fault. I'm not trying to place fault for you. I really want you to help you understand what happened here so that we can move forward and next time we can maybe deal with it. Yeah, but that wasn't my fault. If so-and-so would have done X, Y, and Z, okay, that's fine. Sometimes you just have to say, I'm hearing you. It may not have been my fault. I need to figure out how I deal with it in the future. To be able to put that line in the sand and say, this happened over here. What can I learn from it? Take what responsibility I need to take and then move forward. It's okay. We have to have understanding. Go back to the animals must be fed. Needs, goals, visions, and dreams. Everybody has to clearly know what those are. You're consistently put your immediate needs. So that's right. I'm sorry. So as a leader, I take these personality profile tests just because I think they're fun. They are so darn right every time. There's this one that has autonomy trait. An autonomy trait means, some people call it the drive trait. I prefer to say that it's the trait that says I can make a decision on something I haven't ever seen before. So if I have a problem, I can figure out a solution for it if I've never seen the problem before by applying everything else I know. My drive trait is, that autonomy trait is way off the charts. Okay? So I don't always know what other people do. So I can tell how they're thinking, unless I have them take the test, which I do quite often. But the key is, my point, boy howdy, I'm lost now. My point is that nothing ever, 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 ever will happen fast enough for me. And it used to drive me insane. And now I'm just like, it's okay, it'll happen. I'll push it along, I'll nurture it, I'll kind of get everybody going. And I do that with everything. I have a very, very dear friend who is, how could I say this? She's a little hard to handle sometimes. She'd be what you'd call high maintenance. Okay? We go to a restaurant, service is a little slow. I decide I'm not real happy about it. But it's okay, it's just time. They might have had some issues in back. It's not a big deal. Let's just relax. And it's no big deal. Let's have another cup of coffee. He wants to get all upset. The reality is I don't know what's going on in other people's worlds, so I have to relax and let it go. That's very important to me. That I have to consistently put myself and my drive on the back burner to ultimately get what I want. If I tried to drive my team at the speed that I'd run at, I would go through people like crazy. There would be bodies in the streets. And I used to do that. And I used to, when I realized that I can't go that far, so I'll go a little far, I'll slow down. I'll try to find other people around me. I got other people around me who had a high drive trait, but really kind of stank. And I started to say another word, and I didn't want to say that word. So it's really important for me to make sure that I know myself, I know what I want, and I put my patient hat on. So it's about understanding. A friend of mine, Bill Severns, is a good friend of a bunch of guys on the team, Ned Yost and them. And Bill tells the story of the coaches will be standing around, and Yost will say what he wants to do. And he'll go to the first coach, the second coach, and the third coach. And if they don't all four agree, he doesn't do it. But something a little kind of, he feels that strongly. They'll talk more about it, and if they move on. He has to make sure he's got agreement. That's his coaching team to make sure he's got the whole team covered. So learning to put your own desires on the back burner is a hard thing to do, but if you ultimately want the set vision, you better do it. My friend Neil Patterson, everybody knows who he is, Cerner, you guys knew that one. He says, he talks about references managing IT. And the first thing everybody does is, oh, it's a technology book, he's talking about technology. No, he's not. He's talking about managing yourself is the little I, and it's purposefully a little I, and managing your team. So it's how do I know myself, and how do I keep myself in check, but continue to drive my team forward. And I realize that might be a little risky putting up there because I know everybody has every kind of feeling about Neil. Anyway, your needs, sometimes we have to realize that people just come to work for a paycheck. That's their physical need. Take money home to their family. Sometimes they come for other reasons. They have goals, hopes, dreams, and aspirations. Visions. How many little leaguers have dreams of making it to the Little League World Series and then on to the big leagues, and ultimately the Big League World Series? Lots and lots of dreams. The key for me is to make sure that I know what I want in the future, whether it's my own personal drive and desire or whether it's the drive and desire for my team. How many of you, if you closed your eyes, and I do want everybody to close their eyes for this one, because this is just, if you know what you want your life to look like in 6 years, put your hand up. Okay. About 25%, maybe 30%. Okay? I want you to do an exercise. This weekend, over the next couple weeks, it's a phenomenal exercise. 6 years from now, I want you to write it out now, but pretend it's 6 years in the future. Boy, howdy. A perfect day. From the time your toes hit the floor to the time your head hits the pillow. Write out what a perfect day looks like. Everything you do. It took me 2 whole weeks to get mine right. And I did it first, and I'll tell you why 6 years in a minute. I did it first because I had been in business 20 years, and I looked up and I go, I'm not where I wanted to be 20 years ago. It's because I did not have an exact vision of what I wanted 20 years from then. So by writing it out, I knew what decisions I wanted to make. And every decision was about delivering on that dream. So I sat down, I wrote it all out, and there were a few key things there. One of those key things I wrote out is I wanted to go play tennis at the country club after work 3 or 4 times a week and have dinner and with my friends. That was a little problematic. I'd never picked up a tennis racket at that point in time. So I thought, well, I better go take some tennis lessons because my dream is to go play top-level tennis 3 or 4 nights a week. So I started taking tennis lessons, and I was pretty good. I'd played a racquetball all the time as I was a kid. And the coach goes, well, yeah, I think I can put you in this novice league over here. I don't want to play novice. So he put me in the intermediate league. I got slaughtered. And I was still bored to tears. Tennis wasn't fast enough for me. I got slaughtered, but they were not as competitive. That intermediate league was not as competitive. The people weren't as competitive as I wanted. So after 23 years away from racquetball, I played a lot of racquetball as a kid, traveled all over the country, went to national chain, all that stuff. Quit for boys in college or something, I don't remember exactly. Yeah, the boys got upset when I was beating them at racquetball all the time, so I just quit playing racquetball. Wrong decision. Anyway, so I went back to start playing racquetball again, fell back in love with my favorite sport, and it's what I do. So I'm doing it next weekend in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. There's something wrong with me. But anyway, making sure you have that. The reason for 6 years is there is a concept called the growth curve. And the growth curve is, doggone it, I should have made a slide of this. Life does not happen. Success does not happen like this. Okay? It happens, I guess I should do. Success does not happen like this. It happens like this. Okay? And if you do the same thing every day for 18 months, you'll be stellar at it at the end of 18 months. So if you decide you're going to start exercising, you'll make quick gains and you'll level out and you'll get to a plateau at 18 months. And then you'll do another round of it. And then you'll do another round of it. And you kind of reset every 18 months. But if you continue doing the behavior, you have a definitive upward trajectory. So if you want to do anything seriously, 6 years, first of all 18 months and then 6 years is critical time. We see it consistently over the time in research. It was borne out over the technology expansion and the growth of technology, and you see it in personal development as well. So the growth curve first came out of technology conversations, then it went back and people started doing research around it, and they saw it in personal development. So behavior, repetitive behavior on a progressive uptick, you get explosive growth over 18 months, and 4G curves get you to where you want to go. Kind of goes back to that 10,000 hours thing. You know, you aren't really good at something until you spent 10,000 hours doing it. So goals, dreams, aspiration. Key is to maintain confidence in the vision. The same level of confidence we had on the first day of spring training. So making sure you know what your vision is. I solidly have my vision in my head of where I want to be 6 years from now. And every decision I make today is about that vision. So where do you want to be? Where do you want your teams to be? And then we want to make sure, we have to ignore the naysayers. People tell you you're crazy. Will Yoast find a way to screw this up again? If you Google that, you get 138,000 Google hits. That had to be a little tough. Okay. So this I thought was interesting. Bobby Cox said you can't beat him as a person or a baseball guy. He's not afraid to do things. He runs a great communication club, and he's strict. He always been no nonsense. Let's play the game right and win. I think that's an important thing. This is my world. I might need to pay attention to the naysayers. I do, though. We do as much or more digital communication as we do print. I knew this a long time ago. So, and then when it's all said and done, we have to celebrate. And that's the piece that honestly we miss consistently, is when we launch that, do that, finish that, hit our 6-year mark, retire, win the lottery, whatever it's going to be, we got to stop and celebrate. And that's the piece that we consistently miss. So I absolutely appreciate all of the time and attention, and I am still so humbled, Marty, for the invitation to speak to you all. I'm happy to take any questions if you'd like. So. Everybody's just ready to go get back to work because now you got to go do it all. So. Well, thank you. You've been a great audience. Oh, wait. There's one.
We have a question.
There's one.
Yes. Hi. Oh, sorry. My name is Irina, and I have a question. Have you ever had a situation where you knew that not much really depended on you, but it was very serious and could stop you from doing a lot of stuff? And if you did, how did you cope with it?
Okay. Did I ever have a situation where
There was something serious that did really not depend on you, but could stop you from going forward.
Oh, yeah.
How do you cope with that?
Okay.
But I mean, like something really serious, not like,
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know how really serious I can get compared to people's life and death. So the question was, have I ever encountered something, I was working on something that was really serious, and I had a situation that I was outside of my control, but still was impacting my end goal. Okay. Well, how much time do we have left? Okay. So back in 2004, when I herniated 3 discs in my neck, I had a VP of technology who was hired 8 people, hired him in January. He went around and told everybody in the company he was going to have this major piece of technology that was going to totally change our business done in 5 months. 5 months came along. I realized he wasn't even close to it. I realized he was an idiot. Well, now wait a second. I want to explain. He hired a lady that was an entertainer to be on staff that knew nothing about technology, and a few other things that are just befuddle me that this man was in my environment. Anyway, my brother said to me, Gina, it's you. You are too hard to work for. You don't let people succeed. You don't let them. I'm like, oh my God. So I got into this very big clash with my brother. Owner of the company. You can imagine, if you have siblings, you know what kind of fights you have when you're 12? Yeah, try having them when you're 40. It's the same fight. That instance set things back 2 years and destroyed a relationship with my brother. So yes, I've dealt with and so how I got through it, I don't want to just leave you there. I got myself emotionally centered and learned about all this compartmentalization, and I focused on controlling what I could control. And unfortunately, I am not a detailed documenter, but the only way I could get rid of this man out of my environment, because my brother and I were going like this, and I was wrong, and I was, whatever, was I started detailing everything. Control what I could control. And then continue to move forward. Get rid of the stress as best I can. But the only way I did that, was able to do that, because I physically had to. Anybody's had herniated discs? There's So, another question. Okay.
My name is Anna Wynn, and I have a question is, you say that you are introvert, and it's hard to believe because with the way, easy to convince people that you're a great, public speaker. So could you give some tips for like introvert people, how to live in the extrovert world?
Okay. I would be happy. So the question was, how, as an introvert, do you live in an extrovert world, and can I give you some tips? Well, on that same test that says my autonomy trait is way out far, it also says my sociability trait is very low. So if I go to a party, and unless I know people there, I'm kind of standing back with people I know and love already. Okay? My vision for what I want is so great, I will do whatever I have to do to go get it. And if that means being uncomfortable in the moment, I will go be uncomfortable in the moment. So I got Larry King's book, How to Talk to Anybody About Anything, and started doing the behavior of interviewing people. And then I practiced it. And so anytime I need to learn a skill, I practice it everywhere. And sometimes that gets me into trouble. So I started talking to people at gas stations, in grocery lines. And then I started doing just all kinds of crazy stuff. And then I decided I wanted to start dating more. So I'd go and just randomly talk to men I thought were interesting. That was really hard, and I didn't want to do that. But it helped me get out of myself. So for example, to come and do this presentation today, I spent the morning mostly alone, didn't take calls, mentally got prepared for it. And then I come and I can do this and I can be lovely for hours. But what will happen is tonight when I go home and go to bed, I'll make sure that I can really relax. But it's important because that drive, that vision for me is so overwhelming in my spirit. But you have to figure out, what do you want? And is it worth it? Sometimes it's not. And sometimes for me it's not, believe me. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you again so much. Appreciate it.